plan to have, who will be the emergency quarterback?
Shedeur. Yeah. Is Dylan Gabriel going to be like second quarter? He's out there because Flacco just needs a minute in the blue tent.
Yeah, that feels likely.
And if it's Shedeur Sanders and he starts balling,
then what?
Everything changes in a
whole
bat of an eye.
Oh, yeah.
Going in there, he's working hard. He's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dylan Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dylan Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last weekend, so the tenor of the conversation changed. He really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Kevin Stefanski's latest declaration has set the tone for Cleveland's quarterback room. With a calm but unmistakably firm delivery, he made it clear, Shedeur Sanders will not be sidelined by new arrivals. No matter who walks through the door, Sanders will continue to get opportunities. He will serve as the team's emergency option, a role that, ironically, puts him closer than ever to QB1 status if things unravel. That single statement has ignited a storm of debate. Because if the Browns never intended for Bailey Zappe to be a contender, then why bring him in? Zappe was never meant to lead an offense. He was insurance, a safety net, a buffer against the brutal realities of an NFL season where injuries are inevitable and depth can evaporate overnight. But peel back the layers, and Stefanski's decision says more about Sanders than Zappe. By refusing to commit to a veteran over the rookie, the Browns are signaling confidence, or perhaps desperation, that Shedeur is their true contingency plan. Zappe's arrival is about roster protection, not quarterback replacement. It is about keeping options flexible while avoiding another crisis if one starter falls. So when you strip away the headlines, the message is simple. Cleveland is hedging its bets. They're not replacing Sanders. They're not discarding Dylan Gabriel. They're just buying themselves insurance for the storm ahead. And in that calculus, Sanders still holds the inside track to step into QB1 if the season calls for it. The question is no longer whether he'll get his chance. It's how soon the Browns will need to cash in on that insurance policy.
I like the fact that they have him there. I think he'll be good in practice. He'll be good for some of those younger guys in helping them to prepare for a game and whatnot. And he's just also a really good guy.
The decision to bring in Bailey Zappe was not about chasing a new starter. It was about reinforcing the foundation around two young quarterbacks the Browns are betting their future on. As Mary Kay Cabot reported, Zappe's role is straightforward. Provide stability in the room, help prepare Sanders and Gabriel week to week, and be ready to step in only if injuries strike. In other words, he's a safeguard, not a savior. But hidden beneath that headline is a deeper subplot, one that now has Dylan Gabriel's name written all over it. Around the league, whispers are growing louder. Multiple teams have expressed interest in Gabriel, and after Kenny Pickett's recent trade, his value may never be higher. If a deal materializes, it could clear the runway for Sanders to rise faster than expected, moving into the second-string role and standing just one step away from QB1. The speculation hasn't been fueled by insiders alone. Stephen A. Smith entered the debate with trademark fire, highlighting what many in Cleveland have quietly admitted. Sanders has already passed Gabriel on the depth chart. Even before his most recent preseason outing, the rookie's command of the huddle, his undefeated stretches in practice, and his sharp communication with teammates told the story. Aside from a minor setback last week, his momentum has been undeniable. And that's the truth Cleveland can't ignore. Sanders is no longer just a developmental prospect. He's becoming a central piece of the Browns' future. The organization sees it. Analysts see it. Fans are beginning to see it. What remains to be answered is whether Cleveland has the patience and the courage to accelerate his rise when opportunity knocks.
He really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Stephen A. Smith didn't just mention Shedeur Sanders. He doubled down on what many around the league have been sensing. Sanders is no longer just a rookie trying to find his footing. He's a young quarterback gaining real momentum, week after week, practice after practice. According to Smith, the shift became undeniable even before the latest preseason snaps were played. Sanders, in his words, had already moved ahead of Dillon Gabriel on the depth chart. Yes, there was a minor stumble last week, but it was exactly that. Minor. Beyond that, Sanders has remained undefeated in his stretches, commanding the huddle with growing authority. His connection with teammates is tightening, his communication sharper, his focus more deliberate. This isn't just raw talent. It's progression, steady and undeniable. Stephen A. painted a picture of a quarterback whose work ethic matches his natural ability. A player who understands that potential only matters if it's sharpened day after day. In his view, the Browns see it too. They know what they have in Sanders, and they're not simply hoping, they're counting on him. Counting on him to grow, to evolve, to step into a role larger than any rookie should bear. Because in Cleveland, Sanders isn't just developing. He's becoming essential. And every rep, every practice, every hard-fought moment is pushing him closer to becoming the quarterback the Browns can no longer keep on the sidelines.
He's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dillon Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dillon Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last week, and so the tenor of the conversation changed.
Stephen A. Smith's words aren't hanging in isolation. They echo a shift happening inside Cleveland's own walls. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, once cautious and even critical of Shedeur Sanders, is now charting a very different course. Recently, Stefanski stood before the media and made it clear. His commitment is to Sanders' growth. Not as a soundbite, not as a half-hearted reassurance, but as a public declaration that the rookie will be developed regardless of outside noise. This is no small pivot. Only weeks ago, Stefanski was measured, even dismissive at times, downplaying concerns and challenging Sanders with tough critiques. That stance kept the rookie at arm's length, forcing him to earn every snap, every ounce of trust. But then came the trade of Kenny Pickett, an organizational move that reshuffled the quarterback hierarchy and, in many ways, forced the coach's hand. Now, Sanders is no longer buried in the depth chart. He's in the spotlight, given the chance to step forward and show whether his promise translates into production. The timing is telling. For the first time, Stefanski isn't just talking about Sanders as a project for the future. He's treating him as a player whose time might be arriving much sooner than expected. And that change signals something larger. Cleveland is no longer hiding its hand. Sanders is being positioned not just as insurance, but as a real candidate to shape the Browns' next chapter. The opportunity is here. The question is whether he can seize it.
I don't concern myself with outside type of things. But I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
The debate over Cleveland's quarterback depth doesn't end with Shedeur Sanders. It extends directly to Dillon Gabriel, a young passer whose future now feels more uncertain than ever. Analysts across the league are weighing in, and while the opinions vary, a common thread keeps emerging. Gabriel's size may be his greatest obstacle. Former NFL executive Mike Tannenbaum acknowledged Gabriel's preseason performance with respect, praising his poise, decision-making, and flashes of genuine skill. But even as he applauded the quarterback's growth, Tannenbaum highlighted a glaring concern: Gabriel's height. In a league where defensive linemen tower over the pocket and throwing lanes vanish in seconds, a lack of size isn't just a detail, it's a disadvantage. And for Gabriel, it could ultimately force the Browns' hand toward trade. Nick Wright echoed the sentiment, calling Gabriel undeniably talented, but equally constrained by physical limitations he cannot escape. Skill, footwork, and composure are all there, but in the unforgiving calculus of the NFL, size matters. Wright made it clear. Gabriel's ceiling may always be capped, not because of his mind or mechanics, but because of the physical realities of the game. When the comparison shifts back to Shedeur Sanders, the contrast becomes even sharper. Sanders carries the natural frame, the arm talent, and the long-term projection that Gabriel struggles to match. It doesn't erase Gabriel's effort or flashes of promise, but it does paint a sobering picture. One quarterback with tools that suggest longevity, and another fighting against physical odds that no coaching staff can entirely coach away. And so the conversation intensifies. Is Gabriel a viable QB2 for the Browns? Or is he destined to become an asset moved elsewhere, while Sanders rises to claim the role Cleveland seems to be preparing him for?
And then Gabriel, who, through no fault of his own, commits one of my cardinal sins of quarterbacking, which is he's tiny. And so, he's tiny.
When Mike Florio speaks, the NFL world listens, and his take on Cleveland's quarterback dilemma adds yet another layer to an already volatile storyline. According to Florio, the Browns are actively weighing the possibility of trading Dillon Gabriel. On the surface, that might seem like a logical football decision, but beneath it lies a delicate balance between roster management, organizational credibility, and the volatile pulse of the fan base. Florio warned that moving Gabriel would shrink the quarterback competition, removing one of the few internal pressures keeping Sanders sharp. Yet he also acknowledged the flip side. By clearing that space, Sanders would have the stage to seize a bigger role. In that scenario, the young quarterback wouldn't just be fighting for practice reps. He'd be auditioning to solidify himself as Cleveland's clear QB2, with the potential to step in at any moment. But Florio drew a line in the sand. Sanders is essentially untouchable. His fan following, his cultural momentum, and his status as the face of Cleveland's future make him too valuable to move. Trading him would not only damage the locker room, but ignite a firestorm of backlash that the Browns could never fully contain. That leaves Gabriel as the more likely candidate, not because he lacks ability, but because the franchise cannot afford the fallout of losing Sanders. In Florio's view, the Browns are navigating a precarious path, balancing football decisions with public perception, trying to protect their investment while managing expectations. And at the center of it all stands Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback Cleveland cannot risk letting go.
This is one of the natural and foreseeable byproducts of drafting him. He comes to town with a built-in fan base. The mouth breathers, as you call them, are in tow. Not that I called them that, but you called them that.
Yeah,
They're there.
Rich Eisen, never one to shy away from bold projections, added his voice to the chorus, and his words may prove prophetic. He argued that if Dillon Gabriel is indeed traded and Shedeur Sanders officially steps into the QB2 role, the clock immediately starts ticking. In Eisen's view, it would be only a matter of time before Sanders ascends even further, taking over as the starter before this season is done. Not as a distant possibility, but as an inevitability. Eisen emphasized that this shift would hand Sanders the opportunity every young quarterback dreams of, the chance not only to play, but to cement his status. And he believes Sanders is destined for that moment. The rookie's steady progress, the unwavering momentum behind him, and a shift in Kevin Stefanski's tone all point in the same direction. Sanders is not just waiting in the shadows. He is being positioned, step by step, as the Browns' future. When Stefanski declared that Sanders would be Cleveland's emergency option if anything happens to Joe Flacco, it sounded at first like a contingency plan. But when you place that alongside Gabriel's uncertain future, Sanders' consistent rise, and the growing confidence from analysts across the board, the picture becomes far clearer. This is no longer about insurance. This is about succession. And if Gabriel is moved, it could be the final domino. The move that silences doubters. The moment Sanders is no longer just a rookie fighting for recognition, but the heir apparent to Cleveland's quarterback throne. A new chapter could be beginning, one that reshapes the very identity of this franchise. So the question now passes to you, the fans. Do you see Sanders as the Browns' true QB1 in waiting? Could a Gabriel trade be the final step in sealing his rise? Or does Gabriel still have a bigger role to play in Cleveland's unfolding drama? How do you envision the battle between Sanders Gabriel, and Flacco shaping the future of this team? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to know where you stand in this debate that could define the Browns' next era.